Just got to get my computer back up here. Okay, before we took our pause, we had reached the end of the agricultural policy options item 8.2.2, and our clerk, Brandy Teeple, has just informed me that our live stream went down at some point. Before we got to the motion on the recommendations that Nancy and Jason had come up with. So, Brandy, for the benefit of the public who may have been suddenly cut off from the proceedings, do you want to read what that recommendation was that was moved?
So the motion that was passed by council regarding the agricultural land policy options report presented by staff, moved by Councillor Milligan and seconded by Councillor McDonald, that council received the report entitled Agricultural Land Policy Options. Further, that council directs staff to make a formal request to the County of Lennox and Addington to undertake a comprehensive review of the prime agricultural land use designation within the county through the completion of a LEARS/ALES study or equivalent at time of OP update. And further, that council directs staff to commence a township-initiated official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment to further regulate residential development on lands with class 1 through 3 soils to solicit public input from the broader community. And that motion was passed.
Thanks, Brandy. Okay, so we are back live and hope we don't cut out again. And we're at 8.3.1 on our agenda, which is our 2024 draft budget. And we have a recommendation that the report entitled 2024 budget proposal be received for information, and one, that the 2024 general levy for operating and capital budgets be received as follows. A township operating tax levy requirement of $5,331,908.05. B, a township capital tax levy requirement of $1,353,542.12. And the supplementary Newburgh waste levy requirement of $23,680. And two, that the 2024 general tax rate for operating and capital budget be received as follows. A township operating and capital tax rate of 0.00671246, and B, a Newburgh waste tax rate of 0.0031753, and three, that staff post notice of intention to adopt the 2024 budget at the March 4th, 2024 regular council meeting. And further, four, that bylaw 2024 to be numbered later, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of all sums required for 2024, be read a first and second time at this meeting. Can I get a mover for all that? Wenda and Sherry, any discussion? Anita, anything that you wish to add or highlight from what you've brought to us tonight? I see we have a paper copy of a number of budget items. Mike, Anita, please. Yeah, thank you.
Nothing further, just the items that are attached to be replaced in your budget binder, and any other questions that you need clarification on based on the staff report you see before you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Any questions for Anita at this point? Well, I just want to say that it's not often we go through a budget exercise where we have no serious quibbles with anything and haven't had to shut staff down, and in fact ended up asking that we raise the amount to be raised by 0.5%. It testifies to some really hard work by staff, and particularly yourself, Anita, in your first budget for us. I'm sure council is very grateful, as am I. So with that, I will call the question. All in favor? That's great. Thank you. So we've got our first and second reading, and at our next meeting, we can do a final reading. Thanks, Anita. 8.4.1 Tamworth and Aaronsville Community Development Committee request for insurance. The recommendation is that the report entitled "The Request for Insurance" be received, and that council endorses and supports the following Tamworth Aaronsville Community Development Committee community events, and that the events be included under the township's insurance policy. The May the 24th decorative bicycle installations in Tamworth, the September 24 removal of those installations, the October 24 harvest decoration installations in Tamworth, the October 24 removal of those decorations, the November 24 installation of Christmas decorations in the village, and the February 25 removal of those decorations. Volunteer work in the township owned Parquet and Corner Gardens in Tamworth, volunteer work at Aaronsville Train Station, and volunteer work at Tamworth Sign located at roads 41 and 4. Clerk Teeple, this is your item. Did you want to elaborate any further on the recommendations or the report?
Nothing further to add to the report, Reeve-wise. It's just in consultation with our insurance brokers. This was their recommendation based on the request. So staff have passed this along to council for their decision.
Just a question, were we covering these insurance needs before?
We covered the UTDC before.
Yeah.
For their activities.
Yeah.
For years, yep.
So is this something we have to do every year then?
I don't know if there's any specific policy or procedural that council or staff have followed in the past. It is something that we will be looking into, but based on the communication from the Tamworth and Aaronsville Community Development Committee, they were indicating that this was a standard practice that they did. They submitted requests to council. Upon review of the requests, we had just noted some of their events weren't really affiliated with the township. They were kind of events held on their own account. So we consulted with McDougall Insurance, and they indicated that they could be included under the township's policy, but it should be for events where they are endorsed by council, providing beautification to the community. Those types of things could be under the township's insurance policy.
Thank you for that. Did I get a mover and seconder for that? Doug and Rob, all in favor? That's carried. Great. Thank you for that.
Communicate with the TDC too, and tell them what some of their events are called.
Yeah, that can be part of the motion, sure. Yeah, go ahead, Wenda.
So that's really interesting, Brandy, because for years, it's just been recognized by McDougall that all they needed was a list of their activities, and they had to submit just like this, and they would be automatically covered under our insurance policy. I know when I was chairing the Rogues Hollow Renewal Committee for 5 years, that's what we had to do every year, was submit our list of events. They didn't have to be, involving, the township or anything. It was just our list of events. And that's how McDougall was. They must have changed their policy then to say that it has to be
Endorsed.
endorsed. So, I mean, theoretically, are we not endorsing it by approving this? So theoretically, we're endorsing these events by approving them for coverage. Would you not say?
Yeah, go ahead, Jason. Yeah. No, Brandy, go ahead. Yeah, okay.
Through you, Reeve-wise, that yes, we are in fact endorsing the events, and we do provide a listing brokerage, so they can be included within the policy. It just, under the current request, there are some items that aren't really affiliated with the township. So the Tamworth and Aaronsville Community Development Committee walking in the Santa Claus parade, that's not that's not members of council, that's not a committee of council, it's not really affiliated with the township. So that type of event was included within the endorsement.
If I may, as well, through you, Reeve, I think, Councillor Lon, you're 100% accurate in the past, and I think this year we've done potentially a deeper dive on the request that's come forward for council to endorse. I think potentially in the past it was, here is what we are seeking the council's support and endorsement on as a community group, and if you approve and accept all of these, we can then basically be covered through your insurance policy, where we had a conversation and discussion with our broker to understand if it's not really an extension of council or an improvement to our community that we would wish to have would need to do via another committee, for example, then it should not really be covered under that policy set. So for that reason, we were very specific in consultation with McDougall to understand, beautifying the sign along County Road 41 and 4 is obviously a aesthetic appease to our township, where walking in the Santa Claus parade is, how does that extend to a private business owner that's walking in the town? They wouldn't be benefiting from our insurance policy because they didn't get their name endorsed at the start of the year, whereas any member of the TEDC, it's a very similar process. It's just more of a refined list this year.
Okay, everyone happy? We're already done with that one, yeah. Okay, we've got a few items for information, OPP Municipal Policing Bureau, and a thank you letter from Lennox and Atkins Hospital Foundation. Could I get a move with those? Sherry and Wendy, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried, thank you. New business and statements from members. Wendy, go ahead.
So during the presentations about the wells, in particular, Stephanie, and I know her, but I can't get her name right, Brachaki, she had some
Brachowski.
recommendations and summaries, and I was just thinking that it would be in the best interest, I would imagine, of council to forward her presentation onto the Ministry of the Environment and Recreation and Parks. Did I answer? Thank you. And I'm only saying that because she raised some risk thoughts about water quality and the effect that, improperly decommissioned wells and the community in Camden East. And I think if we don't forward this on to the ministry for them to look at, that we, might be, that we should do that. And I'd like to either direct staff or make that we forward her presentation on.
Through your revise, yeah, I'd appreciate a motion, and I have to just say that there's no concern in doing so. The other delegation this evening, there's already been conversation started with Public Works Manager Thompson regarding the Ministry of Conservation and Parks on the landfill and any of the FOI documentation, so that's already ongoing. Extend our other delegate this evening is not a concern.
So Wenda and Crystal Lee, moved in seconder. Any discussion on that? All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Anyone else? New business? Statements from members? Doug, go ahead.
I have a question, and anything that's for Jeff, just because I didn't get a chance to ask him earlier. County Road 6 between Yarker and Crowbrook, there's a washout pothole that belongs to Chris Wager. Do we need a motion, Jeff, from this council to Chris Wager, asking him to look at a final solution? That pothole, as you well know, you fix it every week or two. It's more serious than a pothole. Or do we just rely on the TAC committee?
It's a great question. Through you, Revise, I have met with Mr. Wager from the county out there and looking at different steps of just replacing the asphalt all the way across the road. There's a drainage issue
Cut and
there.
fill? Cut and fill?
Yeah,
Thank you.
just in that section off the end of the curve
Yep.
and getting the drainage off the road.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Anyone else? Okay, that concludes the open part of the meeting. Yes.
Just make a comment to the presentation. Sorry, so just to revise, just the request from one of the presenters tonight, Mr. Wayne Goodyear, about asking staff to do an FOI request to the ministry regarding the landfill site study. If that's at council's discretion, so if council wants to direct staff, I would ask for a motion for that, or you can continue with just receiving the delegation as it was.
So what specific motion would you like if council is going to entertain that idea?
That staff be directed to reach out to the ministry to request a copy of the report that was referenced at tonight's meeting.
From the 1970s. Does anyone want to make that motion? Crystal Lee and Wendy, any discussion? Oh, yeah, Doug, go ahead.
I'm not sure, now mind you, I wasn't here in 1970, it was 1975 when I came. But I'm not sure there ever was a closure on that, to be quite honest with you. I'm not sure. I remember very vaguely, I remember a discussion that talked about the merits of the two dumps. And that discussion was similar to what we heard tonight. This isn't a good location for the dump. It's on fractured limestone, but the one in Moscow is fantastic because it's dumping in the swamp, which I had trouble with at the time. Okay, but anyways, but I never heard of or seen that there was actually a closure report, just a discussion around the merits of the two. We can ask, but I'm not sure that there ever was one.
So we're basically asking for a report from the ministry then.
If it
Was there a
exists.
closure
Yeah.
recommendation or not? Basically,
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to.
Or just ask for a 70s report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wenda?
So Mr. Goodyear also raised another point, and that is where is this going? Like, where is it? He wanted to know the direction. Was it coming across and down to the stream or whatever? Because the wells that they're being tested aren't coming, they're coming back dry. So I know that in the past, since I've started on council, we get these very comprehensive reports of all of our landfills, and it's been a while, has it not?
Every year, we get it every year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's annual.
Annually?
Yeah, Jeff can fill you in on that.
Okay.
Yeah, through you revised their annual reports. So we'll have a financial statement coming shortly. So it's ready for the audit. But then it's usually April before we get the annual report. And just back to the FOI request with the ministry, Mr. Sands can correct me if I'm wrong, but you're looking at 12 to 18 months for an FOI request from the ministry. Where we're a 30-day turnaround, I believe, Brandy?
That's fine.
Depends on the file and the extensiveness on the records.
Okay. So where do we leave it? If I get a mover and second on that.
Revive, I have moved by Councillor Woodcock and seconded by Councillor Lalonde that staff be directed to reach out to the ministry to inquire about a landfill study from the 1970s.
That's good. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Anything further at this point? Okay, that's the end of the open part of the meeting. I need a motion to move into closed session pursuant to Section 239 of the Municipal Act. The reason for the closed meeting is we're discussing a personal matter about an identifiable individual, and we are also discussing advice subject to solicitor-client privilege regarding an OMB hearing. So I need a motion to move into closed. Sherry and Doug, all in favor? That's carried. And Jeff is shutting off the live feed.